to Hillary Clinton over Senator Bernie Sanders in their race for the Democratic presidential nomination. Several DNC staffers lost their jobs, including Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, Congress's top Democrat, says Russians are responsible for the hack.
I do know that this is a Watergate-like electronic break-in, and anyone who would exploit for the purpose of embarrassment or something like that.
The DNC says it is creating a cybersecurity task force in response. In Washington, Rich Edson, Fox News.
You're watching WITI Milwaukee. When it matters to you, it matters to us. Fox 6 News, because you matter. Fox 6 News at 10 starts right now.
We are following breaking news of a disturbance tonight in the area of Sherman and Auer.
This is video posted to Facebook tonight of the scene. Witnesses tell us dozens of people have assembled in the area, as have a large number of police officers. At this point, we know that a car has been set on fire. Right now, you're seeing live pictures. The bricks have been thrown at a Milwaukee fire truck. The Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office tells us they are sending all available squads as well as heavy equipment to assist Milwaukee police on the scene.
Yeah, so that's the live picture down there. You're seeing things burning. Now, this is how it all started. Hours earlier, that area was the scene of an officer-involved shooting. One man was killed by police, another was arrested.
Our Ashley Sears was there as the situation became tense. She has now left that area due to safety concerns, and she joins us now from District 1 with the latest. Ashley?
Yeah, it has been a volatile evening. Police advised us it would not be safe for us to stay on the scene. That is when we came here. Here's a look at an MPD tweet from tonight. A squad had its windows smashed. Another was set on fire. It has been very tense following this officer-involved shooting. Police tape blocked several streets as officers and squads lined the scene near 44th and Auer.
I heard bang, 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 3 shots, and I knew they were gunshots.
Maxine Jeter heard them from her backyard. She quickly grabbed her 4-year-old great-granddaughter and ran inside.
It sounded too close to us. This time it was just so close that we went in the house and locked the door.
Police say around 3:30 Saturday afternoon, 2 officers attempted to stop a vehicle when the 2 men inside ran.
One man was armed with a handgun. An officer confronted that man in a gangway, and the officer fired shots, and that man is deceased.
Police say the 23-year-old was armed with a stolen weapon. They were unable to say whether he fired it at the officer.
The gun at the scene that we are recovering was stolen in a burglary from, I believe, Waukesha, along with 500 rounds of ammunition.
As the man's family arrives to the scene, emotions are high, trying to understand what took place. Jeter watches.
This is too much.
Saddened by the violence in her neighborhood, hopeful it will soon end.
This brings us to tears.
We have a crew out there right now. This is a live picture of a car that has been set on fire near 44th and Auer. We will be monitoring this situation throughout the night and bring you updates as this story develops. Reporting live downtown, Ashley Sears, Fox 6 News.
All right, Ashley, again, we want to take another look at this situation here. Again, here is a live picture that we are looking at from the scene. This is near 44th and Auer. Obviously a large Milwaukee police presence, and you can see that looks like a burnt out car in that location.
And you can see there's a concentration of squads going to that area, so I'm not sure if they actually see. Oh, there you see it right there.
Yeah, you can see what looks like a van on the left side of your screen that's burning.
And maybe even 2 vehicles.
Yeah, and we have had reports that this started as a group of about 25 to 50 people, and there were reports that there were rocks and bricks being thrown first at police officers, and then we had reports that there was a fire to a car, and when the firefighters came in, there were bricks thrown at them as well. Ashley Sears was down on this scene earlier. It just became too dangerous, so we've moved her farther away from the scene, and you can see police look like they are in their riot gear tonight.
Yeah, when police first got there, they were, regular uniforms, but as things began to escalate, then we started seeing the riot gear coming out.
This has been an incredibly violent 24 hours in Milwaukee. There were 9 shootings. That's separate from the officer-involved shooting. 5 of those were homicides. So Milwaukee police, they were busy well before the officer-involved shooting, which happened this afternoon. That happening with a man in his 20s. The officer was also in his 20s. And then the scene became very hectic and very tense. It was tense throughout the afternoon. Ashley Sears moving away from the scene at about 7 o'clock tonight, and that's when reports that bricks started to be thrown. And now you are looking at the Milwaukee Police Department in a large line. They are looking like they're moving right towards some of those crowds and towards that fire that we're seeing on your screen.
This scene, you know, it looks like some of the things that we've seen in other incidents in other parts of the country, where the officers with their riot gear walking in a line towards the protesters out there right now. As a matter of fact, you were mentioning that we have 9 shootings overnight. Besides this one, the officer-involved shooting, and 5 homicides, and there was a homicide, I think, like a block from where this is happening.
Yeah, and just to tell you where this is very close to the Sherman Park neighborhood, and there you can see the fire that's burning down there. Sherman Park, a little bit of history. That's been a trouble spot this entire summer. In June, we had reported that large crowds of teenagers had gathered and they got into some fights. And when police showed up, they started throwing rocks at police then. That night ended with just a couple of people detained. And in the days that followed, the community members really had calmed down this area. But with the tension that we saw today with the officer-involved shooting, obviously things have changed in this neighborhood tonight.
We're going to pull Ashley back in, and I was listening to her report earlier, and she was talking to some of the residents in that area, and you can just see the frustration that they're going with to see their neighborhood with the shootings and the homicides taking place, and now this incident that we're seeing right here unfolding before us live on screen. Ashley, are you still there?
Yeah, I am here. We spoke with a neighbor earlier today. She was brought to tears just talking about the violence that she's seen in that area over the last few months. She said especially it came to a head kind of in the last 24 hours. There was a homicide just blocks away from there. She said she arrived home and saw police tape yesterday, and then she stepped outside today and heard gunshots fired, and she just said it's very frustrating. The whole neighborhood is frustrated by everything going on there. And when we were there, you mentioned things became pretty tense. We were there as the family of the man killed by that Milwaukee police officer arrived on the scene. Very emotional. There was some shouting. We've seen this before when police arrive to a scene and see that their loved one has died. But things got pretty tense, so we had to move to another area of the scene about a block away, which was much safer over there. But then at one point, we were told by officers that they would be leaving the scene and it would probably not be safe for us to stay out there. And that's when we moved here to Milwaukee Police Headquarters. And we've just been monitoring this from afar. We've heard reports of, squads on fire, cars on fire, bricks thrown at the Milwaukee Fire Department truck out there. We also heard reports that a news crew may have been jumped as well. Just a tense situation.
Yeah, and just to catch everyone up to speed, if you're just joining us, this is unrest. You're watching live pictures right now from 44th and Hour. This is near the scene of where an officer-involved shooting took place this afternoon. We are seeing, as you can see right now live on your screen, Milwaukee police officers in their riot gear, and there is a large fire out there. And some people may be wondering, why are we not seeing any firefighters? Well, in situations like this, sometimes the firefighters don't feel safe, and we have had reports that when firefighters moved in to put out a car fire earlier in the night, bricks were thrown at some of the trucks. We have seen, and you can see there's a police officer in the fire right in the background there. We have seen some of the damage. We've seen pictures of Milwaukee police squads with some bricks thrown in, and like we said, there's been reports of the fire trucks.
As you said that, let me just break in right now. We have a report that an officer has been hit with a brick and is being treated for that. I believe the brick went through the squad, and we saw a picture earlier where the windshield was broken from possibly a brick. And I'm not sure if that was the same squad that the officer was in and got hurt, but an officer has been hurt and has gone for treatment in this incident.
You're seeing a pretty sizable fire in the center of your screen. I want to bring Ashley Sears back in here because she was on scene of the officer-involved shooting right from the get-go this afternoon. And Ashley, did it just seem like the tension was growing as the afternoon went on?
Yes, as I said, when we moved from one block to the other, it seemed to diffuse a little bit, but from afar, we were behind the tape, we could see more and more police officers arrive. We saw some riot gear being brought out, but we didn't see it being used while we were still out there. And then we saw the sheriff's department come on scene, and then we saw fire trucks come on scene. So at one point, we started to think, this may be a little bit more than what we had anticipated earlier in the afternoon. And then, as I said, Milwaukee police advised us it may not be safe out there, and that we should head out. As we were leaving, we saw large crowds still gathered, and we were told that those crowds continued to grow.
And at this point, I mean, we're still looking at this fire, and we're not seeing fire trucks or water going on. And the fire truck did try to get in there earlier and was, bricks were thrown, so they had to pull back. At this point, it could be a situation where it's just too unsafe for them to come in. Yeah,
and again, we've seen large crowds in the Sherman Park area in the summer, but Milwaukee has really been fortunate. Even going back to the Dontre Hamilton situation, that was a gentleman who was killed by Milwaukee police, and we saw some unrest in the streets. That was really focused in downtown. Everything was pretty much peaceful. There was one incident where people went on the interstate and were arrested. But Milwaukee's been fortunate that we haven't seen unrest really lead to fires or this kind of damage. And now you can hear some of what I believe are the fire trucks in the background there. But once again, this is 44th and Hour, very close to the scene of where Sherman and Hour, the officer-involved shooting took place just a few blocks away at 44th and Hour this afternoon. Then we saw large crowds gather, a lot of young people out, and then we saw bricks started being thrown, and now we are seeing some fires right now live on your television screen.
This has been a really... go ahead, Ashley.
I was going to jump in here. You talked about the crowds gathering. I just wanted to mention that we saw a lot of cars driving by as well. It seemed to be gawkers, and a lot of people just kind of started walking over, getting a sense of what was going on. It was much larger than what you would see on a normal police situation, a normal officer-involved shooting. Just the crowds kept coming, and there was a lot of traffic in the area as well. And from what we could see, it looked like the people started spilling out into the street on Sherman around 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. So it just, you could feel the tension in the air, and you knew something might be happening.
I don't know if things are starting to diffuse a little bit, because earlier we saw the officers kind of in a line marching maybe towards people, towards protesters, if there are any out there, and now we don't see that. We just see them just kind of standing in a group. So hopefully things are about to level out.
We have put a call into the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office. They say they are assisting the Milwaukee Police Department tonight, but it really is a Milwaukee Police Department scene. As you see our camera now go up to show you kind of how high the flames and smoke are leaving the area. But this is been a very tense evening, and yeah, like Bev said, it does look like the situation where we just saw police officers moving around the block. Now we just saw a long line of police officers in riot gear kind of standing around.
Hopefully things are, I don't see as many people out as well. So maybe this is kind of the end of what has been a violent weekend. Again, and I say a violent weekend because last night we had 9 shootings, 5 homicides. And Ashley, that was the story that you were covering earlier today, correct?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
Well, we were talking about there were 9 shootings overnight in, I guess, a 12-hour period, 5 homicides, and then the officer-involved shooting. And that's where you came in. You were covering the officer-involved shooting.
Yeah, we arrived on the scene shortly after 4 o'clock. The officer-involved shooting happened around 3:30, so we arrived there pretty early on. One man was killed by a police officer. We are told that he had a weapon. He was driving in a car with another man, we're told, and at one point they got out and ran, police say, and when an officer confronted him, he showed his weapon, and that is when that man was shot and killed. Police say that weapon was stolen from Waukesha, and they've been out there on the scene as family arrived, very, very emotional out there. Crowds began to gather, and we had to move to the other side of the street. Now, since I've been out here, though, at Milwaukee Police headquarters, I did get a text from someone who was out there saying, you know, where are your news crews? And I was texting back and forth with her. And then at one point she said, you know, it's just a bunch of teenagers out here. It's not safe for me to be out here. I need to leave. So, you know, the situation is pretty volatile down there. And I don't know, you know, who's involved or how many people are involved, but it seems tense.
Ashley, I just want to break in here. We now have a new update from the Milwaukee Police Department, and we now know what we're looking at, what is burning live on the screens. You saw some images shortly. This from the Milwaukee Police. They say the gas station at Sherman and Burleigh set on fire. The Milwaukee Fire Department cannot extinguish fire as gunshots are being fired. That is actually a gas station that we know very well. This is right across from Sherman Park, and we have covered stories at this gas station a few weeks ago when some teens had showed up to the gas station. The owner, or a clerk from that gas station had come outside with his handgun, fired it in the air to scare off the teens, and that caused a boycott at this gas station as neighbors were very angry that the clerk was then firing his gun with kids around.
Right, and then there seemed to be some kind of understanding as the community and the gas station owner came together and talked, and I think they even had a little cookout together.
Right, they had a cookout. And we remember the clerk actually got fired. The owner, who was a family member, fired the clerk who fired the weapon, and that clerk actually met with the district attorney about him using his weapon, which of course is illegal. But you are looking at live pictures right now near Sherman and Auer. This is the BP gas station that's been on fire now for some time as there is unrest after this officer-involved shooting. We also know from the Milwaukee Police Department that an officer is undergoing treatment at a local hospital after a brick was thrown through a squad window, striking the officer in the head. And Ashley, I do want to go back out to you because that is a story you covered closely.
Ben, I just wanted to add, I did talk to a community activist out at this scene tonight who was asking why we weren't at this Sherman Park. There was a peace rally over there tonight, and he said a bunch of people had gathered at this event, so tonight was supposed to be peaceful, and it's just sad that now we're hearing that it's turned violent in that same area where hours earlier there was this peaceful gathering.
And we know this has been a violent place in the last 24 hours. There was a homicide overnight. This was part of a very violent 24 hours in the city where we saw 9 shootings, not including the officer-involved shooting. That would make it 10. There were 5 homicides, and this was an area that was very tense. And Ashley, you talked about it earlier. From the moment you arrived at the scene, you knew that the tension was high down at the officer-involved shooting, which is just blocks from where this BP gas station is burning near 44th and Auer, right? Can you talk about the tension?
Yes, when we arrived, we spoke with some neighbors who were visibly upset just by all of the violence in the area. And then at one point, families started to arrive and some friends started to arrive. There was screaming and there was crying. There was some confrontations between some people who say they were family of this man and police officers trying to cross the police tape. We were there as the people who say they were the mother and the grandfather arrived, who were yelling for answers, and we saw a lot of tears being shed. A lot of friends started to gather, and it got very loud very quickly, and at one point an officer pulled me aside and said, hey, you might want to move to the other side over there. We don't want you getting hurt and all this. So we moved over there and kind of watched it from afar. We did ask MPD at this news conference earlier today about, the volatility, and they said everything was under control. So we watched from afar as they brought riot gear in, and we started to think that, the tension may be growing, and we were going to be monitoring that.
Right. We continue to look at the live pictures, and of course, the gas station is on fire, and this kind of puts you in mind of some of the pictures that you've seen around the country, but you don't see people breaking windows and this kind of thing. It looks like people are just kind of milling around and looking at what's happened.
And we have seen some very heavy equipment. You can see two very heavy pieces of equipment from, that looks like it's the sheriff and police officers' equipment that is down there. And we've seen police in some of their riot gear this afternoon. Just to bring everybody back a little bit, it all started this afternoon. We were reporting all day on the 9 shootings and the 5 homicides, and that's when there were reports of an officer-involved shooting. We sent our crew down there. There was a news conference, and then now you can see later in the night, that is a live picture of the BP gas station at Sherman and Hour that is on fire, and the Milwaukee Police Department telling us firefighters can't go in to put out that fire because there have been reports of some gunshots tonight.
And now that we know that it is the BP station, it makes more sense to see, several vehicles on fire, because they were probably, trying to pump some gas.
Right, and we had reports earlier that there was a separate car that was on fire early on, and the Milwaukee Fire Department went in to try to put that out, and that's when bricks were thrown at them. So this is a very tough night if you're a family member or you're someone who is in law enforcement or in the fire department, as this area has been very tense, and we're hoping for the best tonight, that everyone stays calm. And you may be asking, man, what can I do to help? If you're a mother out there who has a teenager, you may want to call them and just make sure they come home tonight, because they don't want to be near this scene that there's been reports of shots fired, and just want to make sure everyone stays safe in what's become a very tense evening on Milwaukee's northwest side.
And when we've heard of the shots fired, we've heard of shots fired up in the air. We haven't heard of anyone else being hit tonight, which that's a good thing. Right.
The only report of injury right now coming from the Milwaukee Police Department, they do say an officer was hit with an object or a brick and is at the local hospital being treated for their injuries. Right now, this is live pictures you're watching here on Fox 6 of the area at Sherman and Hour, and you may be wondering, where are the police? We saw large lines of heavily armed police officers on the right side of your screen, and they've kind of stayed in a line on that end of it, and they're kind of sitting back and waiting for this situation to get safer to fight that fire there.
And I hear a lot of fire engines coming through, so it must be safe enough for the fire trucks to come in and tackle this fire.
Right, and to get into this area. And let's bring Ashley Sears back in, who's been following this, and to give us a few more details for people who may just be joining us on what started this all, the officer-involved shooting. And I know, Ashley, it started with a press conference from police in the afternoon.
Yeah, I just wanted to start by saying I think you guys might be hearing the fire trucks. We're near a fire station here, and as they're passing by us, I think our microphones are picking that up. I don't believe that there are fire trucks on the scene there.
Okay.
Okay, good correction there.
Yeah, so it's all by us here. I just wanted to say how heartbreaking this is for some of the residents out there. We spoke with some older residents who say they lived there for 50-plus years, and they've just been watching all of this violence unfold in front of them, and they don't want to move from the area. They have beautiful homes. They've lived there forever. They've raised family. Their children have come back to that area, and they're frustrated. And they say, I spoke with a woman tonight who says, she wants to get a block watch together and kind of take back the neighborhood. And she said, a lot of people think we're older, we're retired, but it's time for us to go to work again, and that work might be bringing peace to the neighborhood. But she said they're up for the challenge, and they want to do this. So we're thinking a lot about those residents who are older, who are in their homes watching this happen in front of them from their windows, who who just think to themselves, you know, what has happened to my neighborhood and what are the next steps to make it safe.
Right, and in that area, you know, you have younger people who have moved in, gotten their homes with their families, and they have young children, and young children are seeing this. So this is a sad day in Milwaukee.
And that woman I spoke with had her great-granddaughter with her this morning or this afternoon, and she said it was supposed to be a fun day. She had her granddaughter in the backyard. They were playing in a pool waiting for a friend to arrive, and that's when she heard some gunshots, and you know, she said it was sad. She had to bring her daughter in the home and call the friend, or her granddaughter rather, in the home, call the friend and say, you know, it's not safe for you to be out here. And she had tears in her eyes telling me that, you know, it was supposed to be this beautiful fun day, and it turned into this, and now seeing what unfolded, I'm sure she's even more saddened by that.
And actually, I know that you've spent some time at Sherman Park, and this is right in the Sherman Park area. Can you talk about how busy that area is with families just on a normal weekend, on a normal Saturday? Because obviously it turned into a beautiful day out there today, and this is a place where people really in this community gather.
Yeah, speaking with people just throughout the last couple of months, as we saw some volatility down at that park, neighbors in the area said this is a place they like to bring their families, hang out, play on the playground, and they started to see kind of a shift. Some teenagers hanging out in the area, the teenagers saying, you know, they were misunderstood, they weren't there to be up to no good. We did see that kind of come to a head earlier this summer, where there was a confrontation with some teens out there and police, and there were some activists who decided they wanted to take back that park, so they were doing their own monitoring of the park, going there on a weekly, daily basis to make sure the situation was safe. But neighbors saying, you know, they didn't feel safe going to the park at some points. So today was supposed to be a peace rally out there, and it turned into this.
And I do want to take everybody back just a few weeks about Sherman Park. This is a place we've reported on this summer. A few weeks ago, there were large gatherings of teens out there, and there were some reports that some had gotten into some fights. And when police arrived, bricks were thrown at them. That was back in June. That night was a very different night. Obviously, we did see some police in their riot gear that night as bricks were being thrown at them, but only a couple of teens were detained. Fast forward a few more weeks, this gas station that you are now looking live at that is caught on fire, that was the spot of some headlines after a group of teens had come into the gas station at night, and the clerk at the gas station grabbed his gun and fired it into the air. That really angered some parents, who then had a boycott of the gas station for several days. And from that point on, there was actually a great moment of the community where the community met with the owner of the gas station who fired the clerk, and there was a moment with them coming together and working it out.
And having like a cookout, so the boycott was over. And there was some agreement there. So it's really sad to see this happening here tonight. And one good thing that Ashley mentioned, that there was a peace rally planned for today. And we have folks coming together within this city trying to make a difference and turn things around and reduce the violence that's going on. And hopefully, with seeing what's going on here tonight, that will only increase and not decrease, because obviously it is needed.
And I can tell you from the reaction we're seeing on Twitter and Facebook right now, there are a lot of people in the community heartbroken to see this scene right in the heart of Sherman Park neighborhood, right near the park where people gather on Saturdays to have a great time. But this has also been a spot that has had some trouble. There was a homicide in the area overnight, and then this officer-involved shooting, which really sparked the frustration that we started seeing this afternoon, and then the tension started to grow. Then throughout the evening, when the sun went down, there were reports that some bricks were starting to be thrown. We had to move our Ashley Sears and her photographer away from the scene because it just was not safe. And now we're seeing some fires and police in their riot gear. And you're seeing on the left side of the screen, that is the video from the officer-involved shooting scene that happened this afternoon, where a gentleman in his 20s with a handgun was shot by a Milwaukee police officer. And we've seen crowds grow since that happened this afternoon.
So I'm sure people were angry about what was happening. And when there is an officer-involved shooting, you know, you don't get a whole lot of information right away because there's an investigation. And without getting the information that a lot of people would want, there is frustration. Why this happened, you know, the BP station set on fire, not sure.
And we don't, and obviously hundreds of people live in this blocks and in these communities, and it doesn't take very many to make it turn south and turn into an awful situation very quickly. The early reports from this crowd that was causing a disturbance was in the dozens, maybe 20, 30, and it had grown a little bit, but really it does not take very many bad apples to turn the situation into something that can be very dangerous. You're right now looking at a live picture. This is Sherman and Auer on the Milwaukee's far northwest side there, and you can see that there is a gas station, the BP gas station, that has caught fire, and the Milwaukee Fire Department, we are told, cannot go to put the flames out because there were reports earlier on that they had heard some gunshots fired. And that is why you're not seeing any firefighters in your screen, and you may be wondering, why is no one putting that out? They are really taking their safety seriously.
We have Rachel Ballion, who has made it to the scene now. Rachel, what can you tell us?
Well, I can tell you guys it's a very active scene out here. There's a lot of people out on the street. Some of them are doing what we're doing. They're watching what's going on. But we've also got, as you can see, on screen right now, there's a big fire about a block up from where we are. I'm standing directly right to the camera, and literally 50 feet from me is a car that has clearly been burned out by a fire earlier today. I can't see this with my physical from where I'm standing, but the photographer that I'm working with tells me that through the camera he was able to see that there is a bus shelter that appears to have been pushed over, toppled over a little bit further up towards the direction of the fire. As you can imagine, and as you can hear right now, there's a lot of cars, some of which are being rerouted, and we've had some people just driving fast up and down the street. So, as I mentioned, a lot of traffic out here, both on foot and on car. And that's kind of all the information I've got right now.
When you look at the people, because at our vantage point where we're seeing, we see a few people standing by. Are people just standing, taking pictures, watching, or are they walking around, or what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're seeing a combination of all of those things. So yeah, there's a fair number of people that are just standing on the sidewalks for several blocks back from the fire, either just talking with people, a lot of people with their cell phones or their tablets out taking video. We are seeing a fair number of people walking around, and like I mentioned, there's a lot of people driving by as well. We've had a few people basically yell at our camera that this is our city. So we've had some of that going on, but for the most part, a lot of the people out here are just kind of standing around watching what's going on.
Rachel, from your vantage point, are you able to see where the...
I should mention...
oh, go ahead, Rachel. I'm sorry.
What I was going to say is I should mention a little bit earlier, probably 15, 20 minutes or so ago, we did hear what sounded like about 5 gunshots. Now, we have no details on what that was, but it was up in the direction of the fire. And the photographer I'm with, he did tell me that through the camera he was able to see at the fire. It looks like there's probably about 3 cars or so that have been fully engulfed by the flames that you can see about a block ahead here.
Okay. Rachel, thank you.
We just want to catch everyone up to speed. If you're just joining us as we hit 10:31 in Milwaukee, this is on the city's northwest side. This is Sherman, and we are at Auer. This is the BP gas station that is on fire, and as Rachel said, you can see there are cars completely burnt out there. But we're going to take you back to this afternoon, how this all started. This was a violent overnight here in Milwaukee, 9 shootings, 5 homicides, and then this afternoon there was an officer-involved shooting.
Right, and that was at 44th and Auer. And a young man had a stolen gun, we're told, and officers chased him, and an officer fired and killed him. A little later, the family members of the deceased person came, and Ashley Sears, who was covering this story, were saying that they were very, very emotional. And why don't we just bring Ashley in right now? You were saying that you saw some of those family members, right?
Yeah, so just to recap, this all started around 3:30 today. Police were in a squad and attempted to pull over two men in a vehicle. They say those two men got out and ran. At one point, an officer confronted one of the suspects, and that man, we are told, showed a handgun to him, and that's when the officer shot and killed the man. Police say that that weapon was stolen in a burglary in Waukesha, along with some ammunition. They say that man is 23 years old. The other suspect was arrested. He is a 23-year-old as well. They say both have lengthy criminal histories. Then when we arrived on the scene, it was around 4 o'clock or so. And at that point, police tape was up. It was quiet at first, but neighbors were obviously concerned. I started talking to a few of them. And then a group of teenagers came over, or younger people, with the name of the man who had been killed, and then family arrived, and there was a lot of tears and a lot of shouting. At one point, a woman who said she was the sister of the man who was killed got into a confrontation of sorts with police, yelling, very, very emotional, very sad that her brother had died, was trying to cross over the police tape. They were telling her to stay back, and that is when an officer came up to us. Once that situation kind of diffused, an officer came up to us and said, hey, things don't seem safe on this side. We've set up a media area about a block and a half away. You guys might want to move there. And as we were starting to leave, the mother, a woman who said she was the mother of this man killed, started running up screaming to police, that's my son, that's my son, that's my son. And things got very tense at that moment, and there were large groups of people shouting at officers, and family was wailing on the scene. So we decided to move a couple blocks away. I had a chance to speak with the man's grandfather, who said the family just wasn't able to say anything at this point, and they were just really sad about everything. And I gave them a card, and they said they'd give me a call when they're ready to talk, but right now it's just, it was just heartbreaking for them. So we moved over to the other side and watched everything from afar, and that's when we saw more and more police arrive on the scene. We saw sheriff's deputies arrive, and then we saw Milwaukee Fire Department arrive, and we started to think, you know, there might be a little more to this. And then as we were sitting there writing our story, gathering information, police came over to us and said, you know, it might not be safe to be here, and that's when we left and came to Milwaukee Police Headquarters here.
Very good. And then we've heard from some reporters, crews that did stay and were, you know, kind of pelted with things thrown at them that then they had to leave.
Right. We have heard from our colleagues at some of the other stations in the newspaper in town that they staying there became very dangerous as they were attacked with some objects. It's just heartbreaking to see the live pictures on your screen of this BP gas station. You have to think that is someone's business. That's someone's livelihood that you are seeing that was just lit on fire tonight, and it has now all gone up in flames from this unruly crowd. And that's got to be so tough to watch for everybody who's in this community.
Well, it's a vital business for the community, a gas station, yeah. As you look at these live pictures, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we will continue our coverage. So stay with us.
Injured? Call Gruber Law Offices and get back in the game.
Hurt in a car accident and now I can't work. I have to do something fast.
All you have to do is make one call.
My car's totaled and I have to do something now.
Just one call, that's all.
Help is just one call away.
Gruber Law Offices made it easy. All I did was call.
All I did was call Gruber Law Offices. They were great. They got me $230,000.
Help is just one call away. Call Gruber Law Offices. One call, that's all. Call 414-276-6666.
Here come the last of the 2016s.
Stylish Prius, sporty Camry, adventurous RAV4, they're all here. But not for long.
Get 0% APR financing on 11 of Toyota's most popular models during Toyota's annual clearance event. Toyota, let's go places.
At the Joseph A. Bank Buy One, Get One Free sale, buy one, get one free on almost everything in the store. Plus, Tropical Blend and Seersucker suits are just $169, and all dress shirts are 2 for $89. Plus, take an extra 40% off all clearance. Only at Joseph A. Bank.
Right now at Steinhoffels, it's the best time to buy your new Beauty Sleep or Beauty Rest mattress. Get a Beauty Sleep Queen mattress and box spring for $178 each, or save up to 50% plus an extra 10% plus free delivery on any Beauty Rest Black, Platinum, or Hybrid mattress. And with Steinhoffels' exclusive 120-night sleep guarantee and free delivery, you won't find a better deal anywhere else, and we guarantee it. Only at Steinhoffels and Steinhoffels Mattress.
Come in now and get the 2016 you've been waiting for at Toyota's annual clearance event. It all ends September 6th, so hurry in before they're gone. Get 0% APR financing on 11 of Toyota's most popular models during Toyota's annual clearance event. Toyota, let's go places.
All right. Thanks for joining us. We are continuing our breaking news of a disturbance tonight in the area of Sherman and Auer. You are looking at live pictures where we have had a disturbance tonight. And since we were here live, a lot of people have shown up.
Yeah, we are now seeing large crowds gather. This is very close to the area where we're also seeing a BP gas station that's been lit on fire. There have been other things that have been destroyed tonight as well. We've seen pictures of a Milwaukee police squad car that had the front window smashed in. We've seen we've seen pictures of other cars that were caught on fire tonight. We are not seeing the BP gas station be put out because Milwaukee police say that there was shots fired in the area and therefore it was not safe for the firefighters to go inside.
You know, I'm looking at that picture. Is that a traffic light that has been knocked over? Well, we've moved it now. We're going back slowly. Can the photographer just get over there?
Oh, yeah,
There
you can
it
see
is.
right there,
Okay.
there's the traffic signal as our signal freezes up a little bit there. And to the left of there is where you see the BP gas station right in the Sherman Park area. This all happening after this really started this afternoon after an officer-involved shooting. That happened about 3:30 in the afternoon. And there was a press conference. Family members started showing up, and then the crowd became more tense, and we saw a group of young people moving around, and it started with bricks being thrown. We've actually moved some of our crews away from the scene to be safe tonight, as there were reports of other journalists tonight having things pelted at them. So we're staying it safe and keeping a little bit of a distance, but you can see the crowds have gathered here. This is near Sherman and Auer.
And we do have an officer who was injured. There was a brick thrown into the squad, into the window, and he was injured by that and has been taken away for treatment. And we had a fire truck that tried to get to the fire. As we mentioned, the BP station is on fire. Fire truck trying to get in and had to pull back because of gunshots being fired. And earlier, bricks were thrown.
Yeah.
So that's where we are right now.
And we really do want to pull it back a full 24 hours about what really all started this. It has been a violent 24 hours and a deadly one to the weekend here in Milwaukee.
Right. We have 5 homicides, 9 shootings, 5 homicides, and one of those homicides is near that area where Sherman and Auer.
Yeah, FOX6's Derica Williams. She has more on the violence and what residents are trying to do to stop it.
Fed up
This has to stop. It has to stop now.
and frightened by recent crime.
Very scary, you know, because it's happening closer and closer.
A robbery-related shooting near 23rd and State claims the lives of 2 men, a 21-year-old and a 23-year-old, early Saturday morning. Then, police say a fight at All Stars near 40th and Fond du Lac spills into the parking lot where 2 men, a 34-year-old and a 36-year-old, were shot and killed.
There were guns with 30 magazine capacity.
A 26-year-old woman and a 30-year-old male victim were also injured.
40th and Fond du Lac was just one of the deadly scenes in Milwaukee. Another occurred just a short distance away near Sherman and Burleigh. The ME's office responded to 5 homicides in less than 12 hours.
Last night was a bad night.
Police say a 33-year-old man was driving south on Sherman when he was shot, causing his car to collide with another car. The man who was shot was taken to the hospital where he died.
I'm angry as to what happened last night. But we're going to work together as a community to make sure that this is a city where people can be safe.
Saturday morning, Mayor Tom Barrett walked in the Garden Homes neighborhood as part of his 100 miles in 100 days effort.
So that they can tell me what's going on in the neighborhood, so I can get firsthand information as to the things that are good, the things that are bad.
He says the government and the community need to work together to get to the root of the violence issue. In Milwaukee, Derica Williams, Fox 6 News.
So there you have it from Derica. 9 shootings, 5 homicides, and that is before the officer-involved shooting at about 3:30 this afternoon.
And that's where I want to bring in Fox 6's Ashley Sears, because right at about 3:30 we got reports of an officer-involved shooting. And Ashley, that's when you headed down to the scene.
Yeah, we headed down there. We arrived probably at about 4 o'clock or so. And as I said, you know, neighbors were kind of out and about looking, wondering what was going on. And we saw a family arrive, and it was very intense. People were yelling and screaming, wanting answers. And we moved a couple blocks away for that Milwaukee police briefing. And that's when we learned that 2 officers had tried to pull over a car. They say 2 men ran from the scene, and at one point in a gangway, an officer confronted one of the suspects, and they say that man showed a gun at the officer, and the officer fired his weapon. Whether or not that suspect fired at an officer is unclear at this point. DCI is handling this investigation, which is standard protocol when something like this happens. The other man was taken into custody. We waited after that police conference wrapped up right about 6 o'clock. We waited and watched as we saw more police officers arrive on the scene, and they started to take out these shields, riot gear of sort, and line it up on the ground. And I spoke to my photographer and said, you know, what do you think's going on here? So we just watched and waited. We didn't really see anything from our perspective of any sort of violence erupting at that point. So we were watching from afar, but you could hear yelling and shouting, and on our side of the tape, a lot of people were just kind of gawking and trying to figure out what was going on, asking us a lot of questions about the situation. And finally, around 7:30 or so, police said that they would be heading out, and that it would be good for us to head out as well, that it would probably not be safe for us to stay out there without a police presence. Many times on these scenes, the situations aren't safe, so we have to move to a police station for our live shots. So at that point, we didn't think anything of it, and then we started to see more and more people gather, and things became more volatile, and we arrived here and kind of watched it on Twitter unfold, and it's heartbreaking for those neighbors out there who are older residents who say they've been watching this for this summer and wondering, what can I do? Why is this happening? How can I make this a safer place? And right now, my thoughts are with those neighbors out there who are older and just want peace.
And I just want to tell everyone, the images you're seeing on your screen near Sherman and Hour, this is about 2 blocks away from where that officer-involved shooting was. This is the BP gas station that we have reported on in the past. There were boycotts earlier this summer, just a few weeks ago, when a clerk at that gas station fired in the air after a group of teens showed up one night, and then some of the parents of those teens were very angry that he used a gun, so they boycotted the gas station. And in the end, we really did see this great moment of the community coming together, because the owner of the gas station ended up firing the clerk, and then he met straight with those angry parents, and the parents, they had a barbecue.
Right. They were able to talk out their differences and their concerns, and it seemed that everything was, you know, okay. Why this BP was targeted, does it have something to do with that? We're not sure. I'm sure we will find that out as the days go on.
I do want to catch everyone up to the latest on the Milwaukee Police Department. They did tell us about 40 minutes ago an officer was undergoing treatment at a local hospital after a brick was thrown through the squad window, striking that officer in the head. And then they are telling us this gas station is burning because there was reports of some shots fired. Right now, you are seeing some heavily armed Milwaukee police officers and riot gear squad coming straight at our camera. It's been a while since we've seen a lot of the police officers right in front of our camera there,
right,
because they've been actually moving around the neighborhoods here. And you can see those look like zip ties that they will use in mass arrest situations if they have to, instead of the handcuffs. So that's what you're seeing on their hands there.
I am told that police are shouting for people to clear the area, so I'm sure that they have those ties ready for the people who don't clear the area.
Yeah, let's try something here. Maybe we can turn our audio up and just take a listen to the scene live right now. As you can see, that a heavily armored police vehicle leading them. Here, let's just listen for a second.
Leave the area now.
This is an unlawful assembly. Leave the area.
You need to leave the area. This is an unlawful assembly. Do it now.
And when they make that threat, that means they will start arresting people right there on the spot. For anyone who does not leave the area. And so this, you can see police moving through the streets as they're trying to clear some of the people who've been straggling and left behind. And I will say, in the last few minutes, you know, Bev, we saw a lot of traffic earlier.
Right. We did see a lot of
And
cars.
that traffic seems to have stopped now with police in the road. They must be blocking off some of the streets there, as you see, and no traffic really on the road except way off in the distance there.
I was looking at the MPD Twitter account, and they have a picture of that squad car that has that broken windshield, and inside that squad car was an officer, and that officer was hurt. And we're told that he is being treated for his injuries. You can see that shot of that squad car right there.
Yeah, and the Milwaukee Police Department saying crowd breaks windows of unoccupied squad near Sherman an hour. And that was the picture. And then here is the live pictures right near Sherman Park. And we do know from the sheriff's office, they have also joined the police department. And actually, the sheriff's department, they would be in charge of Sherman Park, which is right nearby. So that would they would be in that area anyway. But obviously, this is really Milwaukee Police Department's scene as we're seeing them line up on the street corner here.
Yes, we got information from the spokesperson from the sheriff's department that the sheriff's department is actually assisting the police department in their efforts tonight. I can see a few people running, so hopefully they're running home.
All right, this is what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna take a very quick break and regroup, and when we come back, we will continue our breaking news coverage here on Fox 6.
Ram has won countless awards, and we have best-in-class fuel economy, along with an exceptionally smooth ride. So, what does all this award-winning engineering add up to? Ram, America's longest-lasting pickups. Get a great deal during the Ram Summer Clearance Event. Get 0% APR or a low-mileage lease on Ram 1500 Express Quad Cab 4x4 with a V6 engine for $199 a month.
What are you doing up?
Mom said I can have a midnight snack.
Well, I say it's late and you need to go to bed.
Why?
Because I am the boss.
You're not the boss. Mom's the boss.
Well, technically, we are co-bosses.
Technically, Mom's the boss.
Shh. The family favorite, Yoplait.
Let's face it, ladies. As we age, we encounter problems we've never faced before. Hot flashes, fatigue, insomnia, weight gain, just to name a few. Stress and other demands are causing some of us to face these problems at an earlier age. Now there is hope. Newfound Rejuvenation Clinic is a medical clinic for women, staffed by women, offering the newest anti-aging and wellness care programs tailored to your specific needs. Contact the medical professionals at Newfound Rejuvenation Clinic today and embrace the new you.
For the best selection of reclining furniture, come to Built Right. Sofas, love seats, sectionals, chairs, power lift chairs, power motion, and more made in the USA. Whether you want to recline, lift, swivel, or glide, you'll find quality furniture that moves you at Built Right, so buy local.
You're driving along and then it happens. You get hurt in a car wreck. After your car wreck, call us and we'll start working right away to get you the money you deserve. With just one call, you will have the right team on your side.
Gruber Law Offices work fast for me. They got me the money I deserve.
Hurt in a car wreck? Trust Gruber Law Offices to work hard for you. One call, that's all. Call us today at 414-276-6666.
4 by for being one with the water, sand, and the land. For those that let the open air guide them. For inspired style, matched only by what it stands for. So head into your local Jeep dealer and take advantage of summer savings while summer's still here. Jeep Cherokee. It's how we live 4x for summer.
Get 0% financing for 75 months or $4,500 total cash allowance on 2016 Jeep Cherokee models.
Welcome back to our breaking news coverage. We're taking you back live at Sherman in an hour where there has been a disturbance that has been going on for a few hours now. We have, looks like, I was thinking somebody was being arrested, but I don't think that's what's happening. But police are trying to disperse the crowd, get everybody to leave the area because the crowd has been building. And we have a gas station at Sherman and Burleigh that has been set on fire. MPD cannot extinguish it because there have been gunshots and they can't go in safely.
And on that note, we have some new news in from the Milwaukee Police Department. They say officers moving into Sherman and Burleigh, which is right where we are, asking the crowd to disperse peacefully. We heard that. They say rocks are being thrown at officers. And then 1 minute ago, the Milwaukee Police Department tweeting out reports of shots fired at 44th and Hour. And that is the exact location of where the Milwaukee Police Department was involved in an officer-involved shooting earlier tonight. There was a couple guys they were chasing. An officer was in pursuit. Shots were fired, and the suspect was killed. Another man was arrested. That is what really started this entire scene. That was about 3:30 in the afternoon. Our Ashley Sears was down there. And Ashley, do we still have you right now?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you keep us up to date about what happened when you went down there at 3:30 in the afternoon, the officer-involved shooting, for anyone who may just be joining us?
Yeah, when we arrived on the scene, neighbors were out and about wondering what was happening. We were chatting with police officers who, at that point, it wasn't very tense. And within, I would say, 15 minutes or so, family and friends started to arrive, and there was some shouting between family at the police officers. They had wanted to cross the line to see their loved one, and police were telling them to get back, and there was some arguing going on, and at that point we had then moved a couple of blocks away for that police briefing, and during the briefing I asked officers just about the situation a couple blocks down from us. We heard shouting during the news briefing, and they said the situation was under control. They said that, they were monitoring it and everything was okay. They brought some chaplains in to talk with the family, but as we sat there on the scene and waited and watched and talked to some people coming up, we started to see more police officers arrive. We started to see riot gear being taken out, and we started to see more and more officers, and people standing near us were observing the same thing, saying, wow, there's a lot of law enforcement headed toward the other side of the tape. What's going on? And we couldn't get a very clear view, but we could tell it was pretty tense. And then we saw sheriff's deputies arrive, and we saw the Milwaukee Fire Department arrive. At that point, things weren't out of control in any way. We could just tell they were watching over the situation in case things started to happen. And then we left the scene probably around 7:30 or so, maybe a 7:45, when an officer came over to us and advised the news crews that they were leaving and that it would be a good idea for the rest of us to leave. So each station left the scene, and all of us ran into different things. At one point tonight, we were all hearing that some journalists were jumped on the scene, that some rocks were thrown at people. And though we may be competition, we were all kind of corresponding with each other. Are you okay? Are you okay? And we did hear a lot of people were okay. Some people were caught up in the mess, but they said, they were safe at that point. But things got a little tense out there, and we arrived to the Milwaukee Police headquarters and watched this on Facebook and Twitter, just what was happening out there over near 44th and Sherman.
Right. You're looking at live pictures right now. We're seeing an organized procession of law enforcement in their riot gear going through the streets. Now there's a group that they've stopped but they were walking down the street, and they're trying to get everybody to get off the street. Just, you know, go home, disperse from that area.
This is the Sherman Park neighborhood. We are seeing the BP gas station on the corner that was lit on fire. The flames seem to be going down, but we haven't seen any fire trucks, and that's because the Milwaukee Police Department has told us there were reports of shots fired, so they didn't want to risk anyone's safety. Obviously, as Ashley just mentioned, some of our colleagues we had heard had bricks thrown at them, and we are glad to hear that they are okay tonight. And now you're seeing live pictures of some of the people who are still out on the streets at 10:57 as we approach 11 o'clock in Milwaukee. And there are police very close to them with a man standing with his hands up. That is a familiar scene that we've seen in other parts of the country, but not here in Milwaukee. There has been unrest. Of course, the Dontre Hamilton situation brought hundreds of people into the streets for months, but we really never saw any images like this. And tonight we have seen police cars smashed, and unfortunately someone's business was lit on fire.